is Manipulative Maker. So in this activity, we are going to create an interactive virtual manipulatives using drawings. And so you'll either need to include some sort of shapes, you're going to have to do some resizing, you're going to have to do some duplicating, you're going to have to do some grouping of objects. And so by doing that, it's going to help you. And we'll see, I have an example. So go ahead and click on it in the resource and let's get started. All right, so we're looking at math manipulatives. And so here is the kind of the example. Let me go to my drawing of what I've set up. And so this is what you'll see when you force to make a copy. So activity 3, create an interactive activity with virtual manipulatives. So let me zoom out a little bit more. So I want to do that. There you go. So now you can see I have this activity, and basically it's an adding activity and using just base numbers. So I can actually click on one of these and see that's 2. And then I say 2 plus 3, line it in, and that's 5. And so I can see what's added. If I get a closer look, you can see this activity. Notice it's a solid 2, so I'm starting out with 2, and then I'm adding 3, so it allows them to see that 3 sections were added and not just numbers. So that's the idea behind this manipulative, is to have those colors coordinated and then being able to see, oh, are there other ways I can make? There are other ways that I can make it so I can have 5. So let me zoom in, and let's say I start out with 1 this time. So I click on the 1, put it underneath, and now I need to add something that makes 5. So the student would look and measure and be like, oh, I think that does it. There, so those both make 5. So 1 plus 4 makes 5. So you get the idea of the activity. Now, how did I do this? Well, first of all, on the left side here, didn't mention it before in the other one, but this is just a simple table. So I gave them the directions in the table on the left side here. It makes it easier for them to see, and then they still have their workspace. The other thing I did was I set up this grid to be equal to 18 spaces. So after I made my 18, I resized it so that way it fit perfectly. And it also fits perfectly down about 12 spaces. Then as far as the objects on the right that I'm pulling in, notice as I pull one off, there's still another one underneath. So I duplicated this about 3 times. And so after you see that, see now it's done. Now they don't snap back in place, but you have the template of the first activity. So when you give it to your students, they will just have a copy of it. So they're not necessarily messing up yours unless you're working all together and it's a shared copy. This one, the only difference on these was I made the same exact lines. So actually I duplicated 8 from up here. But what I did is I made lines in between. And so if I click on each one, you can see that it's a separate box. So really I just made one box over and over again, and I was able to group them. So let me show you on one that's not as crazy. We'll just use the 4 here. So if I right click and click on ungroup, you can see these are just separate boxes. Okay. So what I want to do is line them up. So the first thing I do is select them, right click and use my align tools. Oh, I don't have them all. There we go. So I'm going to align not their centers, but their middles. There we go. And now, in order to get them close together, to click off. Now I can keep them, kind of see where that red line is, and keep it, and it feels like you can kind of tell it'll snap, you'll feel it snap into place. That one's a little off. And then once you have it, highlight the entire thing, right click and group. And then to duplicate, just Control D. And so that's an easy way to make something of the same thing over and over again. You just really start out with one shape. Now as far as the numbers are concerned, all I did is double click inside one of the shapes and created a number and just use that systematically throughout. So again, just the importance of having extra supply. So if it's something that they're moving and dragging over, make sure you duplicate them, and also just making sure that you use those align tools. And so make sure you're up here using those. Under view, if you don't have the align tools or the guide tools or the snap-on, you can see show guides. You can also click on snap to guides or grid. So if you want it more kind of to a grid, it will snap it in place depending on where you have them. So those are some tools that you can use. You can show a ruler, and then you also have your zoom tools here, which is also your control features. So you can tell mine's not exactly in the center, but it's pretty close. All right, so now I want you to go ahead and make your own manipulative activity, share it with me, share it with others, and have fun doing it.